I positioned my trash can right next to me so that we can talk about me almost getting canned from NYU. Hello, sexy crew. You're in for a treat today because my voice is incredibly raspy, which means I sound way more sexy than I usually do. Hello, sir. I get you anything from the freezer? Just kidding. But also, an anecdote, when I was a waitress in college and I would come in with a raspy voice, I always got higher tips. It was a perk though, honestly, of being sick. Yeah, and I'm not even sick. I was just out too much this weekend, but it is October, so you know we have like 3 different Halloween weekends here, if you're doing it right. All right, so let's get into this. We are talking about NYU today. I thought it was only fitting that I did this because if you're wondering why I have like 500 followers and yet I get like 20 views on every video I'm posting, I'm literally just speaking to my friends right now because those 20 viewers are people I've sent this link to, so thank you so much. I used to make NYU videos in college and I had a few dorm tours go viral, so you know. I stopped like sophomore year of college, but those are where my 500 followers are from, and if any of those 500 people are watching, shout out to you and thank you for still being here like, you know, 5 years later. Anyway, we are doing a NYU dedicated video today, a love letter to NYU. So we are starting in my bedroom because we're starting with a sexy vibe. But I'm also not showing you too much of my bedroom because you gotta keep some of that stuff private and exciting. We are breaking this video up into 3 portions. We are doing how I got into NYU. We are doing nearly getting kicked out my first semester. And also, now that I'm 3 years after graduating NYU, did I love it? Did I think that the education and the cost was worth it? Let's jump right into the first part. How I got into NYU. If you're watching this and you're in high school and you're wondering if you can get in with your 3.0 GPA and no extracurriculars, then I'm here to tell you that you can't unless you've got wealthy, well-connected parents or you are a child star. For the average person, like myself, who came from Minnesota, you have to work really hard. I did a combination of things. I got really good grades. I was involved in sports all throughout high school. I was the president of 2 clubs. I was on the traveling speech team, and then I also did all the AP classes. This is not to brag, because let me just tell you, school was not my thing. Like it wasn't. When I was in grade school, middle school, I didn't really care too much because I was like, well, who cares if I don't, like, if I get through this grade with like C's? No, there's no repercussions, and why would I not just like go skip school and hang out with a friend or like kiss my cute ass boyfriend in the hallway and not go to science? When I got to high school, I realized, I was like, oh, this directly impacts if I can leave Minnesota and go to New York. And when you're a young kid, NYU, I feel like it's kind of marketed to you as like, at least this is how I felt, like the college of all colleges. It was like so lit in all the movies. It's where all the cool kids went. And that from a very young age, I had like a poster of it on my wall. It was like the place that I was going. So when I got to high school, I started getting really good grades, but I knew that wouldn't cut it. And so I also joined sports teams, but I was never a sporty person either. I ended up loving running once I joined the teams. So I did cross country, and then I also did track. But I didn't know what to choose at first because I'm not like a team sports person, and I wanted to join something that you couldn't really get cut from in the auditions. Oh my god, tryouts? Yeah, tryouts. So I chose to do cross country and track, and honestly, great decisions. Cross country more than track. I wasn't a huge track person. And then on top of that, I was in some clubs, but I knew to look really stellar, I would have to be the president of some clubs. Again, the clubs that I ran, I wasn't really super passionate about. I just saw that like they were going to be a good thing to check a box, which also, if you're an admissions counselor watching this, this is what most kids do. And I think this is kind of stupid that we still make this a thing to get into American colleges. But anyway, whatever. I ended up being the president of Earth Group, which I'm honestly, like, all the past presidents before me were like these really granola-y guys, and their whole passion in life was camping, and that's not me. I've always really liked sustainability, but I didn't really feel like anyone in Earth Group cared too much about sustainability. I identified that it would be a club that I could potentially, if I worked hard, become the president of. And how I worked hard was that I just went to like all the meetings. Even though I didn't really fit in with the group, you know, I think they thought I was a little too much of like a city girls girl to be part of it, but I went to all of them. That president went to college right before my junior year, and I had my cross-country friends join Earth Group like 2.5 months before the election for the new president. So they were like, you know, seen as members by the time the election came around. I was voted the new president, and they couldn't really push back from it because I had put in the work. And then the other club that I was the president of, honestly, this is so embarrassing, but it was kind of like DARE, but we called it something different, where it was like promoting people not to use drugs or drink alcohol. And like, I really didn't care if people did. I wasn't a huge partier in high school, but like, I could not have cared less. But I also saw it would be an easy club to become the president of. You had to do embarrassing things like hold signs before prom telling people not to drink and drive. But it's all in my past now, and if someone has a photo of me doing that, I would love to see it someday if I get big on the internet. Aside from that, I joined the speech team because I thought it would show that extra little oomph to college. I ended up being really good at it. I didn't know I would be, and it took a few years of doing it before I got really good. So those are all kind of the different ways that I made sure that I would get into NYU. And honestly, it was a lot of work, but I think, you know, most good things in life come from putting a lot of work in for a long time, and it's all that consistency and keeping your eye on the prize that gets you to where you want to go. And the day that I received the letter in the mail, like saying that I got into NYU, my entire life has changed. Like, I still can't like describe the chills I got all over my body reading that letter. On top of that, the first day of class at NYU, it was so weird. Like, it's so dreamy starting school at NYU and just running around New York. But the next part of my story is how I almost messed it all up and got kicked out in my first semester. Stay tuned for chapter 2 of this love letter to NYU. All right, guys, here is chapter 2, and I positioned my trash can right next to me so that we can talk about me almost getting canned from NYU. Yep, I worked 4 years, and then I almost lost it in 1 semester. Because the thing about working hard is that you also have to play hard. And I didn't do that for 4 years. My eye was solely on the prize. Once I got to NYU, I just partied a lot, and not even like great partying, because if you remember being a freshman in college, you're going to all of the terrible bars that let you in as an 18-year-old. You're going to dorm parties thrown by older guys who end up just being annoying, and then you go home with your friends eating pizza drunk in the dorms and sneak into club nights. But this is before you really know how to handle your alcohol. It was a lot of that my first semester of college, which I think everybody has to go through. I got a 2.2 GPA, which is I think the lowest grades I've ever gotten. It's so embarrassing. I saw my grades at the end of the semester. I was like, oh shoot, okay, that sucks, but I have like 4 years to get it up. I'll be fine. And I did. I ended up graduating with good grades. What I didn't realize is that at NYU, if you spend like 2 semesters, I think it's below a 2-point-something GPA, you get kicked out. And so my advisor brings me into her office, and she was like, yo, what are you doing? Why do you have a 2.2 GPA? And I was like, oh yeah, sorry, like I just, I'll do better. It was just a hard adjustment to college. But anyway, she gave me this whole lecture about if I didn't get it up the next semester to a certain level. I think it was close to a 3, so it had to be a big jump, but also like because it's all averages, having 2 semesters to average a GPA off of is like fine because it goes way up. I was so scared the entire next semester that I was gonna get kicked out of NYU. I can't even imagine what it would have been like if I got kicked out of NYU, but I didn't. I made sure not to make that mistake for the rest of college. One of the most embarrassing things, my little sister was my best friend, and I got her to also move to New York, also go to NYU, and also study my same major. But because I did so badly that first semester, I had to retake the intro class, Intro to Marketing. We had class together, and a lot of kids were confused that we would meet. They're like, are you a junior? Like, why are you taking an intro class? And I was just like, oh, you know, I never took it, which is a lie because you have to take it your first semester, but everyone believed me. So that's my story of almost getting kicked out of NYU. I know you thought it was gonna be something more exciting, like I went nude through Washington Square Park, but I just was stupid and got bad grades. Was not taking my education seriously. This is the last part of my video, which is, was it all worth it? We have a beautiful night for this. I always say it's like the happiest school you can go to because honestly, I was so happy there for 4 years. They treat their students so well. You have to pay a pretty penny to have that experience, of course. I mean, no one's denying that. We've all seen the price tag of NYU. But you know, again, if you're looking for an honest review and you're intending to go to NYU, that rhymed. I loved it. I loved it so much. Most of the experience of NYU, and I think that they would kind of say this themselves, is that you're kind of going there for the community in that there's so many incredible people. I remember I was in class one day, I was taking like a music journalism class, and my teacher was like, everybody look around the room because you're at NYU and some of your classmates are going to be famous. Everyone was so interesting. Everyone had the craziest backgrounds. I do have classmates already that I've seen go off to be famous, and so that part of NYU is incredible, and it made it just so worthwhile. It really broadened my view of what was possible. I was in Steinhardt, I did MCC, and it was not the most challenging major. I have friends who did, you know, like CERN, and they found their education very challenging. I didn't find mine incredibly challenging. That's also not to knock NYU because there's also so many amazing things. You will get really interesting classes at NYU, and you'll have famous professors. You'll have professors who have accomplished so much. I wouldn't trade the education for anything because even though I didn't feel like I was learning the most in my marketing classes, I was also at NYU in New York where I could go and intern for all these incredible places and learn marketing kind of in the field. And that was something that really formed my professional life. Being 3 years out, do I feel like I needed school to get me here? It's a tough question because I think it gave me 4 years to grow up and experience the city and get used to it and do professional things before I dove into the professional world. However, I'm also someone these days who really doesn't believe in the American college system. I don't feel like you need it to get to where you want to be in life anymore, and I feel like often American colleges, it's kind of just a for-profit business now. So if you're asking me in a broader sense, I don't know if spending $250,000 on education is worth it. If you are going to spend $250,000 on education, NYU is the place to do it at, 1,000%. That's my honest review, and if any of you formerly NYU subscribers who liked that content want to keep following along to see what Adult Eve is doing post-college, I promise you it'll just keep getting more exciting. And I'm not that old, I'm only 25. I think I'm still relatable. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. NYU was such a special time in my life. So I'm happy to reflect on it with you. And I guess before it rains, I'm just gonna stop this video. Mwah, I love you, and I love making love letters for you. Enjoy this video because it will be the last for a while where I'm this raspy.